pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Missoula County acknowledges that this event takes place in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. Do we have any public announcements?
Hello, everyone. If you're joining us for this meeting virtually today, instructions for turning on closed captioning are on your screen. If you are joining us in person, we will have closed captioning on all screens in the Sophie Moise room. Just a friendly reminder, there will be multiple chances during the meeting for public comment in person and virtually. The chair will open discussion for public comment after each staff presentation. Please respectfully keep your comments to 3 minutes. If you are on Microsoft Teams, we ask that you use the raise hand feature. This is the small hand button at the top of your screen. If you are calling in on the phone, you need to push *5 to raise your hand. Then once called on, you will need to push *6 to unmute. If you have any questions, please come find me during the meeting. Thanks.
Thanks, Christina. Do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda? Nice to see you, Travis. And Travis, as a veteran, you know the rules. There are 3 minutes. We'll begin as soon as you say your name.
Hi there, Travis Mateer, 26-year resident of Missoula. And I swear this is my last public comment in a cycle of recent public comments. But I won't be able to talk to you guys on Monday, which is Stutter Butter Day. But in detailing some of the things I've been sifting through with the Epstein files, which anyone can do by putting names in, Klaus von Stutterheim is not himself on any sort of like email or communication, but Steve Elkman is. They were both managing directors at Deutsche Bank. And one of my interests is how money flows and how Deep Throat is still right about following money, maybe avoiding some of the salacious clickbait stuff that a lot of the focus is on. But one of the things I like doing show and tell, I brought this book. I support books. I like books. I like my kids to read them. Robert Maxwell was the father of Ghislaine Maxwell. And it's really interesting when you look at like Epstein's interest in rural places like New Mexico and Los Alamos. Back in the day, Robert Maxwell was also interested and used post-Soviet bloc money cutouts to transfer money. And so when you think about someone that comes from New York in 2012, this is Stutterbutter. That's my little nickname for him. Comes in 2012 to Montana up in Seeley Lake. There's going to be discussions further about development, sewage, septic, all that kind of stuff. But it's just interesting how someone in Montana politics gets really, really interested in promoting certain things. I myself in 2016 was a critic of using Missoula as a place for the international rescue, refugee rescue resettlement, whatever the acronym is. And that's because I worked at the Poverello Center for 7 years, and I saw how we were struggling to house some of our folks here. I'm probably getting close to 3 minutes, so I don't want to go over. But I will continue looking into some fascinating details, not to disparage people who are no longer with us, but to better understand how power operates, especially since I sometimes feel, maybe not objectively, it's not true, but I feel like sometimes people take a special interest in my activities. I do sometimes drive with a single headlight, though, and that technically is illegal. All right, that's it for now. Books.
Travis. Have any other public comment? So, sir, I'll just say the same rules for you. 3 minutes, and it'll begin as soon as you say your name. And make sure the green light's on.
My name is Tyson Moore, M-O-O-R-E. Mr. Chair, I represent the Evans and Verton LLC. We are the operator of the 3 funeral homes in Missoula County. And I come this morning or this afternoon to see if we can't have some discourse in the future about indigent burial in our county. It's a topic that we've been discussing with the Sheriff's Department of Coroners for a number of years, and it's time that we maybe take a bigger look at indigent burial in Missoula County. We currently do not have a program in Missoula County. Of the 5 largest counties in Montana, we are the only one that does not. And it's becoming problematic as our county grows, and our indigent population grows as well. And so I don't have a lot more to say today other than I would appreciate being able to be on some sort of agenda or be able to meet so that we can come together and talk about how we can care for these folks in a safe, dignified way while protecting Missoula County as well. Well, thank you.
Thanks. Sir, did you sign in? Because it'd be great to check back in with you later.
did.
So, okay, thank you so much. Any other public comment? If you're here to talk about an agenda item,
No, it's not an agenda item.
Okay.
At this point in time.
all right, so you get 3 minutes as soon as you say your name and turn the green light on.
My name's Edward Klassen. I live in Condon, Montana. Family's been here, well, since 1868. A lot of our family, you know, the Dowdy Ranch. And Swan Mountain Outfitters, that's relatives as well. But regardless, the issue that I have here today that I need you guys to address is we have a Condon Community Council member that has received $500 at a voting, one of the issues. And then we have to ask the question, if her 501c3 that's received hundreds of thousands of dollars over the last 4 years is actually legal to be doing and voting on these things. So I'd like to have a time where we can speak about this, or maybe we come up there and discuss it. I don't want to sanction anybody, but I think we need to address those kind of issues within our county community council. The other item, we talked about who was informed in regards to the referendum that was passed on the 9th to establish the community council and have the 7 members. I still haven't had any response get back to me on that. If you could do so, I'd greatly appreciate it. Well, we got quite a bit of minutes here. Want to use them all up?
Yeah.
Well, you know, I could tell you a little bit about what we do in County, and I'd like that to get out, that we do the Easter egg hunt for County Community. We do the Santa's Village for County Community. We do the Santa's Village for Posh Chocolate and up there in Big Fork. And we are now establishing a food bank. We have about 100 customers in Condon that we actually deliver food between the Veterans Pantry. And I'd like to see if there's some assistance that we can do for the elderly in the community. And if we could do something to allow them to fill out the paperwork for the tax thing, they're really going to need some help with that one, because we have some individuals that are living on approximately $1,200 a month, and their taxes on their home is $600 or $6,000 a year. So we visit with these people. We like to help them. We brought in approximately 10,000 pounds of fresh produce last year, and we'd like to bring in more. And I know you guys have some stuff down here. We've been trying to get with your community down here to help us out, get the kids hot lunches and those kind of things. So I know there's a lot on the agenda. You can go back through it, but if we could spend some time doing for our community, I'd greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other public comment on items not on the agenda, in person or online? Okay. Our current claims list, claims received as of January 28th, 2026 to February 4th, 2026 by the Commissioner's Office, total $1,198,471.33. We have 5 hearings today. The first hearing is the Nordberg Family Transfer and Aggregation Exemption, and Katie Reeder will start us off.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Katie Reeder, planner with Planning, Development, and Sustainability. Today, I'll be presenting the Norberg Family Transfer and Aggregation Request. This application was submitted by Jason Norberg with Missoula Engineering, serving as the technical representative, and we have them with us today.
Katie, can you get a little closer to the microphone? Yeah, thanks.
The project is located on an unaddressed parcel off of Mystic Moon Road in the Potomac area. South of Highway 200, access to the property is provided via Morrison Lane and Blixit Creek Road. This graphic shows the existing conditions. The property is currently undeveloped and consists of approximately 20 acres. The applicant proposes to create two 10-acre tracts, transferring tract 17A1 to his spouse, Jennifer Norberg, while retaining ownership of the remaining tract 17A-2. The long-term intent is to hold the property for their children when they are of age. As part of this request, the applicant is proposing to aggregate a historic underlying boundary dating back to an 1889 deed that has been surveyed over multiple times through the clerk and recorder's office. That boundary is shown here in the orange. The parcel is designated open and resource lands under the 2002 Regional Land Use Guide and is located in an unzoned area. While this designation is not primarily residential, it generally supports development at a density of one dwelling unit per 40 acres. Here's a graphic. This graphic illustrates the proposed configuration with tract 17A1 located on the northern portion of the property and the remaining tract 17A2 on the southern portion. In addition to comments from the clerk and recorder's office, standard agency comments were received from the health department and building safety. The parcels will be required to complete COSA sanitation review and/or applicable exemptions, and any future development will require the appropriate building and trades permits. During review, staff identified two rebuttable presumptions relating to the transfer being structured through the applicant's spouse as an interim step with no immediate development proposed. Staff also noted three general evasion criteria, including a recent property transfer, a boundary line relocation approval in 2024, and potential inconsistency with the growth policy. However, after evaluating the full context of the request, staff finds the proposal supports the family's goal for long-term land ownership. This application was submitted before the new affidavit came into effect. So Jason Norberg is here to answer the family transfer questions.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Nordberg.
I just have a few questions for you, okay?
Sure.
Did you buy the property with the intent of dividing it?
I purchased the property with the intent to, in the future, transfer it to my two children.
Okay. Do you or your transferee intend to transfer the property within the next year?
No.
Have you talked to anyone at the county about going through subdivision review?
I have not.
Will the property be developed?
In the future for my children's home sites?
Will the recipient of the property be residing on the property?
My wife Jennifer, no.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Staff will be recommending approval. If I can bring up the motion, or do you want to open it up?
Oh, Mr. Norberg, do you feel like you'd like to say anything else, or your representative say anything else? Okay, thank you.
Great. Then based on the findings presented in the staff report, staff recommends approval of both the family transfer and aggregation requests. Commissioners, here's your motions.
Thanks. I move to approve the request by Jason Norberg to utilize the family transfer exemption as presented in the exemption application and affidavit.
I'll second that and ask for any public comment. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I move to approve the request by Jason Norberg to utilize the aggregation exemption as presented in the exemption application and affidavit.
Any public comment on this? I'll second it. Sorry, I got my order wrong. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Katie. On to the Brown family transfer.
Great. Okay, thank you again, Commissioners. For the record, Katie Reeder, planner with Planning, Development, and Sustainability. Next, I have the Brown family transfer request submitted by Lita Brown with Montana Northwest serving as the technical representative. This subject property is located at 3114 South 7th Street West between Tower and Hyberta Street. The property is zoned Citizen Zoning District 13 and is designated residential under the 2019 Missoula Area Land Use Element. Here's a graphic that shows the existing conditions of the property with the existing home here at the southern portion of the property. This graphic illustrates the proposed configuration with Lot B, approximately 0.69 acres, located on the northern portion of the property, and Lot A, approximately 0.31 acres on the southern. The applicant proposes to divide the existing 1-acre parcel to create a 0.31 acre lot to transfer to her adult daughter, Megan Brown. Ms. Brown will continue to reside in the existing home while Megan, who currently lives at the property, intends to construct a single-family residence on the new lot. Both homes will utilize the existing access. Standard agency comments were received from the Health Department and Building Safety. The parcel will be required to complete COSA sanitation review and obtain applicable exemptions, and any future development will require the appropriate building and trades permits. During review, staff identified one general evasion criterion that the proposed division is located within a platted subdivision. Staff evaluated this factor and determined that the request remains consistent with the intent of the family transfer exemption. Based on the information provided in the affidavit, staff recommends approval. Commissioners, here's your language.
Is Lita Brown in the space? Yeah, feel free to come comment.
I bought the property with the intention of there's already an existing it started being developed in the back acre. And then my daughter is planning on building the house back there, and then I would remain in the front.
Great. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. I move to approve the request by Lita Brown to utilize a family transfer exemption as presented in the exemption application and affidavit.
I'll second that. Ask for any public comment on this. Okay, seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good luck. All right, next we have a resolution on the Swan Valley Neighborhood Plan, and Ian and Lauren will present.
Okay, good afternoon, commissioners, members of the public. My name is Ian Barley. I'm a planning manager here for the Planning Development Sustainability Department here at
Ian, can you maybe raise the mic or?
I'm very soft-spoken.
There you go.
All right, today we're here to do a request for adoption. We're requesting that the county commissioners adopt the Swan Valley Neighborhood Plan, right? This is a follow-up meeting to the intent to adopt hearing that we had 2 weeks ago on January 29th. Why are we doing this? Or why do we start this whole journey, right? It's good to kind of remember these points, right? The last neighborhood plan for this area was adopted in 1996, right? It had been a long time since this area had seen any kind of planning whatsoever, right? A brief effort to update the plan kind of in the late aughts, early teens, fizzled out and generated a plan that was never approved, right? And there were certainly growing concerns that large development projects could transform the character of the area. And it certainly seemed that we had support from the community, certainly the Swan Valley Community Council, and of course you, the county commissioners, right? And we all kind of came together to make this effort happen. Looking a little at our process timeline, the planning committee was formed by the community council way back on November 21st in 2023. The first draft of the plan was released just last year on June 14th. The community council held its first hearing on October 21st, right? We had about 40 people in attendance, maybe a little more than that. And then the community council turned around and voted to approve the plan, a vote of 3-1 with 1 abstention on November 18th. Then the plan proceeded to the planning board hearing on December 16th, where we received a unanimous recommendation. And of course, we did our intent to adopt hearing on January 29th, 2 weeks ago. And we were at the last step of the process, February 12th, today for the adoption hearing, or the adoption meeting. There were a few amendments that were made by the BCC to the neighborhood plan, and these were reflected in the current draft of the plan, the final draft, right? That we changed designations in the future land use map. They were better changed to reflect the existing flood hazard areas in the valley, right? And I'll bring up an image of that and we can take a look at what those look like. We did have maps on display at the hearing, and so people were kind of aware of what was going on there. We had some questions about the issue, and we were able to clarify that. There were changes to the objectives and strategies of the wildfire section of the plan that were particularly suggested by Commissioner Strohmeyer. So those were also reflected in the new version. Right, so here's the future land use designations for the future land use map of the area. Not easy to see, right, but when we zoom in a little bit, we can see this green strip that kind of cuts right through the middle of the valley through that pink. And you can see the flood hazard, I believe it's the floodway and the flood hazard area, right, that are both reflected with the designations in the plan. This doesn't really impact landowners in the area, right? The policy itself is sort of non-regulatory, right? It's and so there isn't a big change to anyone, but it is kind of best practice that we do, and it was a suggestion by our floodplain administrator, Matt Heimel. All right, so what did we hear on January 29th? After that last hearing, staff got together, we kind of debriefed a little bit, and one thing that we certainly kind of came away with, there were even some comments about this, right, is a confusion about the neighborhood plan and zoning, right? The plan isn't zoning, but it makes recommendations on how zoning should be implemented in the future. Below, we'll see a couple of slides. These were shown actually at on our October meeting with the community council that really tried to drive this home, and this was something that both the planning committee and staff really tried to do a good job of really communicating this point, right? That the two are two different separate sections of law, right? One is regulatory, the other is not. One impacts private property rights, and the other does not, right? They're basically separate processes, right? But certainly what the neighborhood plan does do is it makes a recommendation on zoning, right? So if people were opposed to zoning, chances are it's, you're going to be opposed to the plan even recommending it, right? Also on the public hearing on January 29th, we heard comments that basically there was support for the plan and folks that saw that as an important tool to protect the values held by the community, clean water, dark night sky, rural character, et cetera. Some felt that the community council changed to the zoning recommendations by removing the residential density elements, right, as a good compromise, right? That was Grace Elodie's contribution in that particular moment was it's like, we had this hearing in Condon, lots of people showed up. There were a lot of people that were, uncomfortable with especially with these residential portions of the zoning. So we changed the plan to reflect that, right? That was certainly something that she communicated at the time. There were questions about the floodplain, right, and potential changes to the future land use map. We were able to clarify those, and certainly just general opposition to zoning and concerns about the planning committee's process, right, including missing meeting minutes and a lack of quorum at every meeting. So we have received comments since the January 29th hearing. I'll briefly kind of take us through that. There were about 11 comments since the 29th. If we go a little back a little bit further to January 19th, there were 26 comments. What was certainly an interesting observation that we had was there really isn't opposition to the plan's core values or objectives, right? If the plan is sort of based in terms of like there are these core values, right? Keep it rural, keep it wild, these kinds of things, right? That kind of really set the tone for the whole plan. Then there are a set of objectives, right, that kind of say like, here's how, this is what we're gonna, this on a more detailed level, this is what we want to accomplish. And finally, there are strategies that says this is how we're gonna get it done, right? And it's really the subset of strategies, and particularly in the land use section that talk about zoning, right, that have generated the most opposition. But by and large, there hasn't been a lot of opposition generated about other elements of the plan. So we heard certainly concerns about additional government regulations, right, that zoning will restrict the development of housing, making affordability worse, but also the importance of conserving the Swan's wild landscape, water, wildlife, dark night sky, and rural character. Some would like to see zoning implemented as a reflection of the plan's core values. So what are we requesting today? We are requesting you approve the final resolution adopting the Swan Valley Neighborhood Plan. And the plan will be effective today as an area plan of the Missoula County Growth Policy. So with that, I'll close with a recommended motion. I move to approve the final resolution adopting the Swan Valley Neighborhood Plan as an amendment to the Missoula County Growth Policy. And I'm going to go sit up here with Lauren and John here in case you have any questions.
Thanks a lot, Ian. So if anybody would like to comment on this, now's your time. You get same deal, 3 minutes.
Kind of disagree that we've had hours of documentation without us being able to refute it, but okay. So there are a few refutable arguments which he kind of blanket over. The actual Montana cannot push to another agency anything that they're required to do, sunshine laws. So the refuted argument that the county does, or the county community doesn't have to pass this, or that the missing minutes or missing meeting notes are just something we can pass over at this point in time, is pretty a hard refutable argument that they didn't follow the law. However, the rule that the community as a whole with a petition can do away with any referendum on planning or zoning. We truly intend at this point in time that if you do pass it here today, without taking the zoning portion that the community has said they don't want out of the map, we're going to do away with this referendum with the required number of signatures. And we'll have an attorney meeting here the next 2 weeks to make sure that happens. We've already turned the petition in. We have a large majority. We have over 35% of the actual voting members. That's because we're relegated to the voting members for this. There's only 460 people that vote in Condon. And of that, we only need 108 people to sign a petition, but we had 140 people that signed a petition that don't want zoning. We have a lot of businesses, and different individuals believe that the zoning issue is directed towards their own business, so that we can save the businesses that are there. That but there's some validity to those arguments. There's some validity that I see that you guys are doing family transfers, but for us, a family transfer is going to have to be 5 acres. If we don't have 5 acres, we can't do family transfers up there. It's non-compliant. So we asked you guys to go through the notes. The community, in their notes and what they actually wrote, clearly stated that they did not want zoning of any type. We've got enough regulations. We have great regulations already. We have planning and zoning. We have health department for our septic and our water, and we have EPA regulations, Army Corps of Engineers. We have enough regulations at this point in time. But if you adopt this resolution with the zoning of 1 in 40 and 1 in 10, we're going to have very little choice but to go down the road of petition to have it canceled. One other option is we take it to the voters. You, in your position at this point in time, have an option in the planning that you can take it to the voters and let them decide. Let the voters decide. If they get out there and they get the votes that they want this zoning for county community or proposed zoning for county community, they can go get the votes. Any questions?
Good.
Thank you.
Anybody else like to speak to this?
So,
Somebody online?
yes.
Please, all I have is letter H, but letter H, please go ahead.
Okay, my name is Helene Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to emphasize that the proposal is for land use one, which only recommends zoning for large businesses. There's no zoning recommended for 1 to 10 and 1 to 40, one structure per 40 acres, one structure per 10 acres in this recommendation. So I heard Ed saying something different to that, and I just wanted to clarify that that's not the case. The recommendation for zoning, which was presented at the community council, recommended only restricting large businesses coming into the Swan Valley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
this is Bill Lombardi from Sealy Lake, and Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, thanks for having this hearing today. And I would strongly urge you to make the final adoption of this neighborhood plan, which updates the 1996 neighborhood plan. It was a result of almost 2 years of work by a hardworking committee that was a subset of the Swan Valley Community Council, and numerous public hearings, public meetings, and a lot of opportunity to provide public input. As Helene Michael just mentioned, she was the co-chair with John Simon, did a very good job of getting public input on all of this. And I want to thank the planners and the Planning Commission for providing the work and the input to help us get this done. But it updates the 1996 plan, and basically what it does, 3 things. It upholds the values, the core values of the Swan Valley, which is to preserve the valley's rural character, low density housing, open spaces, small family-run businesses, and strong community volunteerism. 2, protects the clean water, air, and a healthy, resilient forest with abundant wildlife. And 3, provides accessibility to our public lands for hiking, hunting, fishing, camping, and riding. As Helene just mentioned, it doesn't affect residential properties. There was some, vociferous public pushback on the residential property issue for zoning. But what zoning does, it provides some teeth in the neighborhood plan. Without any teeth, this plan doesn't have any bite. It's just a plan. It doesn't have no regulatory enforcement. So I would urge the committee to adopt alternative 1 and put some kind of zoning into place to protect the rural character of the valley and the values that held by Condon residents. And basically what this came out of was the Holland Lake issue, which you're all aware of. And the commissioners asked us and those in the Swan Valley to take control of our future. And that's what this neighborhood plan reflects. It's saying this is what this valley wants for the future. So I want to thank you for providing the resources to do this, and I would strongly urge you to adopt this and move it along as quickly as possible with public input. So thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak to this in person or online? All right. Juan, do you have any questions for staff?
Yes, I was hoping either John Hart, County Attorney, or Ian, maybe again, clarify or address Ed's comments or confusion. I think we have a little bit of a misunderstanding, and so I was just hoping that you'd be able to answer some of his questions. Well, more about kind of like, again, the process, and this is a plan. This isn't actually zoning, and so if you could just clarify that again.
I'll start with just, and John, feel free to jump in at any time here. But yeah, it's our understanding, right, that like in order to do a referendum, a petition in a referendum process with regards to zoning, right, the zoning needs to be in place first. Like that, you need, in order to sort of have a referendum on an issue or on a law, right, that law has to be there. That was my understanding. Well, certainly the plan isn't zoning itself, right? Here, why don't you?
John.
I mean, that's Ian's saying it in the most simple terms. Adopting this neighborhood plan is not adopting zoning for the Swan Valley. That is an entirely separate process under an entirely separate statutory scheme that would go through a whole nother public process and would be considered by you at some other separate time. That there is no zoning. If you approve the recommended motion, there will still not be any zoning in the Swan Valley.
And then I guess the next question is then how does the county or the community make use of an area plan?
I mean, it's a policy, right? It's basically a big list of kind of to-dos, right? Certainly the plan is taken, it is referenced, right? When a subdivision comes forward, right? They'll look at what the neighborhood plan says, right? But that subdivision can be denied based on that plan itself, right? They might find other problems with the subdivision and it ultimately gets denied, but that's not, the plan itself can't do that. So it is referenced in law. But otherwise, there's a lot of sections in here, transportation, facilities, services, that are essentially, we'd like to do more of this, or, county, please help us with that. That's really the function of the plan.
Thank you. And then I guess you were talking about family transfer, but I missed that.
Oh, just because I heard some concern that family transfers on 5 acres couldn't occur if this plan was adopted.
Yeah, that's, so the community council changed the plan, right? And so they removed the portions of the plan that recommended residential density zoning. So that that sort of took out any regulation of, like the plan, you couldn't legally do zoning then that regulated the minimum lot size, whether that was done through a subdivision or through a family transfer, right? So that's, even if the county were to initiate zoning, right, that regulated per the recommendations of the plan, regulate, resorts and large commercial and large industrial and all these kinds of things, right, what it does now, if that was to be enacted, right, a person could still do a family transfer of any size, because the zoning is doesn't address that residential element or a minimum lot size.
Thanks for that clarification.
Thanks. And this is not zoning. This is just a plan. John, did you have?
Let me just follow up on what Ian had said about a growth policy, which includes this neighborhood plan.
I'm sorry, John, can you maybe move the microphone a little closer?
Yep. So I'm going to read to you from the code 76-1-605. Subpart 2, a growth policy, and this neighborhood plan is a growth policy, is not a regulatory document and does not confer any authority to regulate that is not otherwise specifically authorized by law or regulations adopted pursuant to the law. A governing body may not withhold, deny, or impose conditions on any land use approval or other authority to act based solely on compliance or a lack thereof with a growth policy adopted pursuant to this chapter. That's what the Montana legislature has said about a growth policy. But the Montana Supreme Court has said that the document is not without meaning, and you need to make decisions that are in substantial compliance with it. But again, you can't deny a land use proposal based solely on this neighborhood plan. So, for instance, the 5-acre family transfer proposal from somebody in the Swan, you could not say no to that simply because the family transfer parcel is not in strict compliance with the neighborhood plan. That would not be a lawful basis for saying no.
Thanks.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. I guess we have a text from Strohmeyer. Sorry, I'm looking for it. That he apologizes that he can't be here. He's in DC, and that he's fully supportive of the Swan neighborhood plan. So with that, I move to approve the final resolution adopting the Swan Valley Neighborhood Plan as amended to the Missoula County Growth Policy.
I'll second that and ask again for any public comment from anybody who hasn't yet spoken or has something new to say.
Got a question. If this is going to actually establish a zoning district?
No.
Okay, it's not going to establish a zoning district.
No, our attorney was quite clear. This is not zoning. This is a
No,
plan.
I know, but in in order to establish the actual zoning, you have to have a zoning district first. So by adopting this resolution, and we'll talk more in the next week or so with your people, we believe by adopting this, you're establishing a zoning district in Condon community that allows us to move forward with the petition. So if we adopt this, it makes a zoning district for Condon, and we'll have to make sure that we comport with that, and for Chapter 4 of the planning. So I know it's contentious, and I'm just going by what I'm representing is the 140 plus people, and if I had just also homeowners, we'd have over 300 people. So I think you have a meeting with your people here this week, is it correct? On this issue with the petition?
So by the petition, I think you're referring to the petition that was submitted to the elections office?
Yes, yes, yes.
I'm not the attorney in the county attorney's office that reviewed that petition. That's
Okay.
my counterpart, Vinnie Pavlish. But I have talked to Vinnie about that petition, and it's both of our opinions that not today, not tomorrow, there will not be a zoning district that's created, so that petition,
Right, that one, right. But what about the petition to remove the referendum? That could go forward and remove the referendum.
I don't know about any other
so-
petitions, I'm sorry.
So we'll, thank you. Go ahead.
So I think we're good. We have a motion. I'm doing a second. We got some public comment.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Again, just clarifying that this is not a zoning, this is a,
So and we're about to vote on this, and this is not zoning. This is not a zoning district. This is a neighborhood plan.
Mr.
We're voting on a
Chairman,
neighborhood plan. We're not voting on zoning. We're not voting on a zoning district, a neighborhood plan. So
Mr. Chairman, Bill
No,
Lombardi again from the Planning Committee, and that was the understanding of the Planning Committee, the understanding of the Swan Valley Community Council, the understanding of the Planning Commission of Missoula County, and that's your understanding that there is no zoning in this, that would have to be adopted later. So putting a petition forward, there is no zoning district, so any kind of petition, it's not ripe, so to speak, in legal terms. The commission and the planning commission would have, as our understanding, that they would have to adopt zoning standards as we recommended in alternative one, which affects commercial businesses and properties and things like that, not residential. And that's our understanding, and I hope that is your understanding as well.
Thanks.
And there
Bill.
is no zoning district, none.
All right, I'm going to bring us back to the moment. And the moment is we have a motion to approve the Swan Valley Neighborhood Plan, not zoning districts. We're approving the Swan Valley Neighborhood Plan as an amendment to the Missoula County Growth Policy. I seconded that. We got some public comment. Anybody else before we do a vote? Okay, all in favor?
aye.
Aye. Thanks, everybody. Hang on, we do before we do the next thing, Karen Hughes. Oh, okay, it's on me. I thought you were coming to the microphone. Can I lead into this?
We're doing this now?
Yeah.
Now?
Do you want to, what do you want to do?
Let's wait.
We're going to wait a minute on this. So our next hearing is on the Y. No, Grant Creek Crossing, I'm sorry.
Afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Andrew Hagemeyer with Community and Economic Development.
And I'm Flana McClarty with Community and Economic Development.
And we're here to present on an application, a request for tax increment financing in the Grant Creek Crossing Targeted Economic Development District. And with us is a number of the applicants. So if you have questions, they are here. The request is from Grant Creek Crossing LLC, and what they're asking for is a reimbursement of $7.9 million in TIF funds that comes out of the Grant Creek Crossing Targeted Economic Development District. So a little bit about the Grant Creek Crossing Targeted Economic Development District. It's located just south of I-90 and just west of Reserve Street, along Grant Creek in the central part of Missoula. It is in the county. This district's our newest targeted economic development district. It was created just in the late 2024. It's about 84 acres in size. It's a reclaimed gravel pit. So right now it's mostly just vacant. There is a storage unit on the site, but it lacks any of the basic infrastructure that's necessary to have any sort of development at scale. So the development team that's working on this project is proposing to develop the entire site, but over multiple phases. And what we're dealing with here is phase one of their project, which is about 39 acres of that 84-acre targeted economic development district. Right now, they're proposing a 200-home apartment complex on about 9 acres. The rest of the property, the rest of that 39 acres is targeted for development. However, they haven't solidified specific plans yet, but what they're targeting is a mix of uses, including potentially additional residential. Their timeline for building out phase one of this proposal is about 5 years. So what the application for the $7.9 million is for public infrastructure that will support the development of the property. And I'm going to kind of walk through what those infrastructure improvements are. So phase one here is basically this area that's highlighted in blue. That's not a to-scale map. It's just for representation, but that's essentially the section of the property that will be developed in phase one. And in order to develop this, quite a bit of infrastructure needs to occur. First of all, there needs to be infrastructure improvements or intersection improvements to Reserve and Schramm, which is right about there, the yellow star. That will include a traffic light and some re-angling of the intersection. They're also looking at pedestrian improvements along Schramm that kind of connect to the district. And then water and sewer, which is a real critical component of any sort of development at scale, is not located on the property. They have to actually extend it from expressway, right from there up to there, just to reach the property. And then once the property, so they have to extend the water and sewer to the property. And the utilities will need to be brought down and looped through the property as well, gas and electric. And then once they've got all the utilities to the property, then they actually need to build the infrastructure within the property to be able to develop. And that looks like, at least in phase one, a road, we're calling it Road A for now, and all the utilities, water, sewer, gas, water, electric, all be in that utility right away. And So that's, a significant amount of infrastructure needs to go into this project to make this property developable. And then that will get us that 200 unit apartment building, which is located right about there on the property. In terms of how this proposal is going to work, the developer is self-financing this. They're using private financing to put in the infrastructure. Once that infrastructure is in place, that will allow the development to occur, the vertical development of the buildings and everything, the homes. Once that vertical development occurs, then we start collecting property taxes on those structures. That will allow the increment to grow. As the increment grows, that will then allow us to start reimbursing the development team for this public infrastructure. And so we call this a delayed reimbursement. And with this, I hand it to Plana.
As part of our review of the developer's application, our department wants to make sure that the development itself will yield enough increment to support repaying the cost of the infrastructure. So to make sure that it will actually generate enough revenue to pay the $7.9 million to the developer. So in doing this, we look at revenue projections based on the proposed development that they have planned for the area. This is just a model, so we use today's market values for properties and taxable values, as well as today's mills, to then see in the future what is the revenue that potentially could be generated from the development. So currently, the total taxes in the entire district, so the entire 84 acres, is around $71,000. Sorry, that was the base year in 2024 when the district was created. Current taxes for 2025 are around $168,000, of which $56,000 of that is going into the tax increment fund. By the time that phase one is complete, in about 5 years, we estimate that the tax increment revenue would be around $1.2 million annually, showing that the development would support the repayment of the request for $7.9 million over time. And then the table on the right shows that currently the taxable value, and this is for the entire district, is around $200,000. But over time, once phase one is complete, we're estimating that taxable value to increase to over $2 million for the area. The 39 acres that are being developed in phase one, just to break this down, the taxable value per acre is about $10 per acre today. Our projections show that once complete, it would be over $40,000 per acre. Sorry, 40, yeah, I did say that right, 40,000, yes. Perfect. In our review, we also have to make sure that the request, thank you, next, is consistent with state statute as well as county planning documents and guidelines. In reviewing the application for compliance with state statute, costs that may be paid for using TIF are shown on the left-hand side, and then the proposed improvements are on the right-hand side. So eligible costs include water, sewer, utilities, roads, as well as other transportation needs. Workforce housing is also an eligible cost that TIF may be used to pay for. The proposed improvements are listed on the right. This request would only be reimbursing for the public improvements, while workforce housing is an eligible cost that TIF may be paid for. We will not be paying for any of the housing elements, just the water extension, the sewer extension, the road, the main roads, and dry utilities. So I just wanted to clarify that we will not be using TIF to actually construct the vertical construction of the housing. So the request is in compliance with statute. Next, we check for consistency with the growth policy. So the goals of the Missoula area land use element include creating opportunities for retail, service, or employment, which a potential commercial or industrial development in phase 1 would address. A second goal is to provide for a mix of commercial and residential choices. This 200-unit multifamily housing will have 1 to 4 bedroom units, creating a variety of housing for the area. A third goal is to plan and build infrastructure, which the request is to reimburse for these necessary infrastructure improvements for development. And then last, to utilize public-private partnerships to finance and build, which these improvements will be privately financed until we have enough public funds available to reimburse, which addresses that goal. So it is compliant with the growth policy. And then last, that's okay, check for consistency with the comprehensive development plan of the district. So the Grant Creek Crossing Targeted Economic Development District goals are to promote economic development and support a value-adding industry, of which providing the infrastructure necessary for development would open up the property for proposed commercial or industrial developments. The second goal is to invest in the efficient delivery of public infrastructure, which this private financing structure would allow construction to occur immediately and infrastructure to be put in before waiting until we have the public funds available to address the infrastructure needs. Third goal is to support the development of attainable workforce housing. The proposed 200-unit multifamily housing does meet our draft TIF workforce housing policy. The draft workforce housing policy has targets that we are trying to meet, one of which is at least 11 units per acre, dwelling units per acre, and then the second is a range of square footage based on bedroom size, so that assuming that the cost will, bedroom size, yes. So there's a range per bed for how many bedrooms are in the unit. So like a 1-bedroom would have a range of around 700, I'm going to get 700 to 900 square feet, roughly. So trying to make sure that we're not building luxury, but so regulating kind of smaller, targeting smaller bedroom sizes, we're assuming will address the affordability piece. The proposed, like I said, the proposed housing development does meet this policy, and it will be about 22 units per acre, housing units per acre for this. And then last goal is to enhance public safety services, and the traffic improvements at Schramm and Reserve, including the traffic signal and sidewalk, will help address some safety issues. So it is compliant with the comprehensive development plan.
All right, so we did put this project up on Missoula County Voice to capture any public interest, and we did receive a couple comments. One was a question that was about whether this would be reimbursed. Would it be essentially reimbursed retroactively or upfront? And the answer is it's retroactively. And then that question also asked where we could find additional information about the project. And then we also received a second comment that was in general support of the project. They did, that comment did specify that they'd like to see pedestrian facilities across the bridge and then along Grant Creek. We have 2 committees, citizen committees, that we take these sort of applications to. The first is the Missoula Jurisdictional Advisory Committee, which is actually a committee made up of affected taxing jurisdictions that are within Missoula County's TED. So they're not really citizens, they're representatives of taxing jurisdictions. And then the second committee is the Missoula Development Authority, which is a group of citizens. Both of these boards recommended approval unanimously of the project to the commission. And I don't think, yeah, so that's the end of our presentation, and the next slide is a motion when you're ready.
Thanks a lot, Andrew and Flana. Would anybody like to comment on this? Please. Just make sure you make the button go green and say your name.
Is that green? Good afternoon, Commissioners Slotnick and Vero, and members of the County Commission staff. Thanks for having me. My name is Brian Chaffin. I'm the Executive Director of the Clark Fork Coalition. As you all know, we're a local watershed nonprofit that's been protecting and restoring the Clark Fork River watershed since 1985. One of the things that we do in that time is we protect tributaries of the Clark Fork River, including Grant Creek, along which this project will impact. It's adjacent to the property and will impact Grant Creek. And we recognize that this is a hearing for an application for public funding for reimbursement of infrastructure. But since that infrastructure is going to impact the creek and there's some commitments around that creek, I thought I'd bring those concerns to the commission. Now, apologies, lost my place for a second there. Last year, just over a year ago, in February of 2025, the Missoula County, City of Missoula, Missoula Conservation District, and the Clark Fork Coalition signed a memorandum of understanding called the Vision and Strategy for Restoring Grant Creek. And in that, the purpose of the MOU is to formalize the parties' intent to collaborate on efforts to restore and conserve Lower Grant Creek as a clean, healthy, natural stream using the greater Vision and Strategy document for restoring Grant Creek. Within that, just two important points. The responsibilities taken up by the city and county are to ensure city and county riparian ordinances are aligned and enacted, and that local government agrees to address bank stability, stream sediment balance, and hydrologic capacity in development plans along Grant Creek. The proposal here for this infrastructure reimbursement uses public money to reimburse infrastructure, and some of the infrastructure will impact Grant Creek, including the stream crossings and stormwater development. Our concerns about that project are that the stream crossings, while we know the ideal stream crossing would likely be a bridge that has stream matrix underneath of it, we recognize that that's probably unaffordable or expensive under this particular project. And so the way we would request the county to consider when they're moving forward, we're not asking the county to deny this request for reimbursement, but to consider the commitments under the Grant Creek Vision and Strategy document when they're thinking about plans moving forward. And one of those would be to think about stormwater. If you look at the stream crossings, as well as how far the development will be up against Grant Creek, there's very little room for any kind of natural infiltration. Grant Creek is listed as impaired for nutrients, temperature, and sediment. And the development is going to constrict Grant Creek. The crossings are going to constrict Grant Creek that won't allow high flows to dissipate or mitigate except for downstream. And so thinking about places along the development to defray or displace stormwater, green infrastructure elements such as bioswales, infiltration galleries, more green and less impervious, I think would make the project better, but would also uphold the county's commitments under the Vision and Strategy document. So we asked the commission and the planning aspects of Missoula County to think about that as they move forward. And we can commit to helping with that, whether it be design, whether it be advice, and whether it also be potentially providing public engagement, signs, anything else you need to let the public know why these design elements are important moving forward.
Great. Thanks, Brian. That's good stuff.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Green is on. Yes, I'm a resident of, my name is Susan Andrews, and I'm a resident of the Grant Creek condominium complex, which is was built back in 1994. And it's just two-story units. We have 102 units overall, and most of them are two-story, 2 bedrooms. And then we have some 1 bedrooms and we have some 3 bedrooms. And it's a very quiet community. It was for many years. And then the Elk Foundation went in. And for the last 6 years, if I'm not mistaken, we have been putting up with the apartments, the 900-unit apartments that have gone in, and then the continued building near Cracker Barrel, near Come On In. And now I'm learning as of last week, 2 weeks ago perhaps, about the possible roundabout that may be taking place in that area. And now we've got this wonderful 200-unit situation going on just south of the highway. Have any of you ever lived near the highway? Because I do. And it is increasingly loud. It is, it's really sad. It's really sad what we've allowed Missoula to come to in that area. It also is Motel Row, Hotel Row. So I'm not against this particular situation, but what I am against is the units that you're projecting to go in. I think that is outrageous, putting people, workforce housing, what the heck is that? I don't know, but it's not appropriate. Forcing people, you've already forced a lot of people to live near the freeway. It's outrageous. That's all I got to say. And if you haven't lived near the freeway, come and join me, because in the summer, it's pretty bad. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Anybody online? Oh, Kevin.
Hi, Commissioners, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Great. And sorry, once again, I know I spoke last week, and once again, your system does not allow cameras, so you cannot see me. So that capability would allow for enhanced public engagement for future reference. I'm Kevin Davis. In my spare time, I host a volunteer Reserve Street Public Working Group, and we meet on most Friday mornings. And I empathize with some of what Susan just said. I really appreciate what Clark Fork Coalition spoke to a moment ago. In fact, I was one of the many volunteers that served on that Grant Creek Working Group to help arrive at some of those assessments and give us some good direction there. So I just, I don't have in 3 minutes enough time to ask all my questions. I would just suggest that, especially since TIF is being utilized here, there needs to be more public engagement, public involvement with where these funds are going, how they're to be used. And I don't really feel comfortable with the amount of time that's been allocated so far to accomplish that. For example, one of my questions is, this is all about phase one of the project, that the $7.9 million figure. What about the subsequent phases, and what will that amount to in terms of funding? So do we have a total picture yet of what the total amount of TIF will be towards this development, and under what timeline? I'm curious to know what traffic study, where can we get access to the traffic study that was referenced in the application to determine that a traffic signal is necessary at Schramm and Reserve, and what are the side effects or unintended consequences of that? Has Montana Department of Transportation been involved with that? And like I said, with my working group, we meet almost weekly, and I was a bit surprised that this is all this traffic signals been given a green light without, as far as I know, any public comment period. So we'd like to be involved on that too. Any changes to that North Reserve area where we've seen some pretty horrific crashes. And with that, as Susan spoke to, that single ingress egress north of I-90, and then flowing south onto Reserve, there's got to be much more considered than just adding a traffic signal, which could eventually just equate to a net zero effect when you factor in the thousands of additional cars flowing out of this new development and impacting that area. So lots more questions. I hope there's more to come. I don't understand the figures yet and how they're being allocated. So I hope there will be more public involvement. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Anybody else? Anyone else online? Okay. Want any questions for staff?
Well, maybe you guys could repeat, I think Kevin, one of his last questions was about the 7.9 million. Can you give us a breakdown? Because so folks understand what that is going to pay for. I think it was on your second slide.
Yeah, I can bring that back up.
Or I can't remember.
Okay. All right. Sorry, it took a while to bring that back up. So I'll have to rifle through this real quick, but it's all to fund public infrastructure improvements, so traffic light and reserve, sidewalk on Schramm, extension of sewer and water. This is City of Missoula sewer and water from expressway up to the property. Dry utilities, which are gas and electric. They need to kind of be looped through the property, apparently gas specifically. And then the electrical line, which is already there, needs to be buried. And then the road to make the property itself developable, and the utilities need to go along that road as well. So all that totals up to 7.9 million.
Thank you. And then, oh, sorry, did you have?
I mean, a question for John. In the process of constructing something on this scale, when does MDT get involved and how?
You know, I honestly don't know exactly when they get involved, but I think at the closer to the time of developing buildings, whether they be the workforce housing or the mixed use, and because the developer, you know, then has to show that the traffic pressures where the proposed light is not going to be, you know, too much for that particular intersection. And I think that's maybe already happened, and that's why there's a traffic light proposed.
Thanks.
I was going to invite Jeff Smith, the project engineer, up.
Thank you so much.
Knows all these things. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you. Yeah, Jeff Smith with WGM Group. So the process of permitting a traffic signal at Schramm is fairly lengthy. It starts with outreach to MDT and then completion of a traffic study. Traffic study was submitted to the City of Missoula, MDT, and Missoula County, probably a year and a half ago. And some of the elements that we looked at were, of course, traffic that would be generated from this project, a mix of uses. And we also looked at safety at this intersection for the Westview Mobile Home Park. There was a remarkably high number of accidents at that Schramm and Reserve Street intersection. If you try to take a left out of the Montana Club, it's certainly not safe during most parts of the day. So start with a traffic study, outreach to MDT, and then there's several rounds of plan review and plan submittal. So we submitted initial plans for the signal probably a year ago, and then have gone through several rounds of iterations with MDT and the city to the point where we have a couple mechanical agreements to finalize. Otherwise, the plans for the signal have been approved. And there's also coordination with Cenex. This driveway across the street gets revised. So coordination with those affected offsite landowners occurs as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just wanted to maybe talk a little bit about the relationship between the tax increment finance and the development itself. So the development itself is actually kind of like we're financing the project, but the typical processes that the development would normally be permitted under still apply for these projects. And Flana and I aren't necessarily involved in the permitting, right? So we have requirements that they have the permitting done, that they get these approvals, that they go to MDT, that they have zoning compliance approvals. But we're not necessarily ushering through them through the zoning compliance permit process or the MDT process. So there's some connectivity, like we're aware, but we're not necessarily, we don't have our fingers in there making the sausage.
I'm super glad you brought this up. There's lots of concerns about stormwater and traffic, et cetera. This is about a financing mechanism, and all of those regulatory mechanisms around specific issues absolutely apply to this project as they would to any development project in Missoula County. And Brian brought up some fantastic issues around stormwater, very real, especially in this area. And MS4 will be involved. More than an acre is going to be disturbed. Tons of science will be poured into this around stormwater, as into these other things, just like any other development of this scale in Missoula County.
Yeah, and I'd add that Missoula County has excellent stream-side setbacks. They will apply to this project.
I would say best in the state.
I can't tell you exactly what they are, but maybe 125 feet. Yeah, I should know. I wrote them.
Yeah,
but I have forgotten.
Remarkable.
Yeah. But not to say that environmental improvements can be eligible expenses to TIF. And in the future, there are opportunities. This is a privately financed project.
Yeah.
But in the future, this district could look at opportunities to enhance this,
Which is great as part of this mechanism. I want to speak to one little bit on the financing that I'm personally finding very attractive, and that's the low risk piece of it for the county. This is a delayed reimbursement. As Andrew said, the developers are privately funding the creation of the infrastructure, and they're not eligible for any TIF reimbursement until they create vertical development, and there is increment. If for very real business reasons they don't decide to go forward, then there is no increment by which we would pay back this loan. So we're in a great position in terms of limiting our risk.
Can we have the correct language slide?
You would like the motion?
Yes, please.
Okay, stand by.
I think I have something written differently here.
Possibly, yeah, here you go.
Is there no other comment, right?
Oh, please do. Thanks, Juan.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Gretchen Watkins with the Clark Fork Coalition also. I just don't totally understand the funding mechanism and how this all works. And so I'm curious if you're allowed to condition the approval with inclusion of green infrastructure. The bare minimum of the environmental regulations currently, you can make the entire buildable site impervious. So you can make the entire thing parking lot and building and just put the stormwater in the ground. We already have 9,000 plus dry wells that make our sole source aquifer very susceptible. And daylighting or using green infrastructure really allows us to minimize the maintenance and reduce the vulnerability to our water systems. And so if using public funds, there is a way that we can say we would like this to be done in the most environmentally sound way, utilizing green infrastructure. I don't know if that's a possibility or not.
Thanks. John, I'm going to try some of this, and then will you fix it when I get it wrong? Say, okay. So Gretchen, if I understand your question right, could we condition this financing mechanism based on some specific improvements or types of development? And my understanding that the question before us right now is about a financing mechanism, not about the specifics of the development. When the developer goes forward, let's say if we use this financing mechanism to this delayed reimbursement to help assist in the construction of, or the reimbursement of the construction of this infrastructure. At a later date, the developer will have to come with a building permit. As to what that is, we don't even really know yet. What we can talk about right now is the financing mechanism, not what will follow once the sewer, water, and bit of pedestrian infrastructure and traffic light are completed. Is that correct?
I mean, perhaps in concept, you could negotiate these into the project ahead of time. However, the developer could say no, and say this doesn't pencil. I mean, this property is so difficult to develop. It's sat vacant for 20
decades.
Plus, yes, yeah. And they're privately financing this. And we would have to have pretty objective measurements. And I mean, I get what I'm trying to say, and maybe conceptually, yes, but I think in practical application, it would be, I don't know how we would really facilitate that, especially in a situation where it's being privately financed. I mean, we have to remember the developer is paying $8 million to build all this infrastructure and sitting on that note for years before reimbursement occurs. I just keep going back to, I mean, the best way to approach, I think, targeted these districts is to have a plan and try to execute that plan over time, right? And so there could be opportunity in the future where there is money available for specific projects and specific outcomes that we could make enhancements or habitat restoration, things like that. You know, as I mentioned, that we're not really a development, we aren't the reviewer of the development specific projects. The stormwater plan wasn't submitted to us, so they could have it all could be green infrastructure. We're making an assumption it's not, I think, right now. I don't know. I mean, so it's a tough thing to try to figure out at the tail end of the project, right? I mean, in the public hearing, like, is this that conceptually what we could do or not? I think maybe perhaps, but it's a negotiation as well, especially when they're using private funding. Yeah.
And also these on the ground kind of conversations happens later in the process.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand
I'm also really heartened by the fact that this mechanism will exist for the developer when it comes time to doing that bridge.
Yeah.
That it's really expensive to do the bridge Brian was talking about. And there's a funding opportunity that would not exist for that bridge were it not for this being in a TED.
And, you know, if I put on my planner hat a little bit, when we try to require conditions, it's also called an exaction in a legal term, right? There has to be some direct proportional impact that's recognized. We have standards, and so we would be asking for concessions above and beyond that standard. And we would be asking them to pay for it and finance that for years, and then before we reimburse them. And that's a tough space to be in. That could be considered an exaction. I don't know. You might know.
John?
I mean, it could be. I don't know. Honest to God, I don't know much about this project. I know I'm the lawyer you got at this hearing, but I'm not involved in this at all. So
I hear what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna lean into really confident in our MS4 program, and like I was just saying, there are opportunities to do types of work on this site that would not exist were it not for a TED. And given that the people involved, who they are and what their goals are and what our goals are, I have high hopes that we can reach some of those. I'm going to live with that.
Okay. Oh, whoops, there's one more.
Oh, please. Okay.
Um,
I think he went already.
Sorry, may I speak again?
I think you went once, Kevin.
I did. May I not speak again?
If you're going to say something you hadn't yet said.
You bet. Just wanted to summarize in my mind what I'm hearing today, and that is a lot of speculating and projections. And I'm just wondering if you're capable of postponing this until a lot of these questions are answered. And also if the big concerns from law enforcement, fire protection in schools, school superintendents that we heard from in the last year when this was voted on to become a TED, if those have been fully addressed. I know I've talked to 3 different Missoula County superintendents just this week that have major concerns about how TIF is impacting their respective school districts. And we're covering some of that at our tomorrow's Reserve Street Public Working Group, anyone's able to join. So I just think, given all the speculation, I'm just wondering what the rush is, why this has to be a decision today when we're hearing today from officials that a lot of folks don't have answers, and what this may lead to in terms of additional TIF requests down the road on this project. Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate that. Again, I think that the question is about the financing mechanism and the hesitancy. We're going to answer those questions further down the process. Like the question before us right now is about this financing mechanism, and I feel confident and comfortable moving forward with that so that we can get to these questions that folks have. Sorry.
I would just, in addition, I think the things that we're struggling with are conceptual concepts right now. We understand this project very well and how it relates to targeted economic development districts and the law. And that's all very solid. There's been questions thrown to us that are conceptual that we maybe don't know the answer to. That being one. The other part is, Kevin just spoke for the school districts and in the taxing jurisdictions, but they reviewed this application and recommended approval for it.
I was going to note MJAC voted
unanimously. So they've seen this and recommended approval.
Okay, and I don't know if Jeff Smith had anything to add. You were sitting on the edge of your seat, and I couldn't tell if you wanted to say something.
Thank you, Jeff Smith, WGM Group. I was thinking of the MJAC committee that I attended as well in the robust conversation that occurred there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Which is great, why we have the MJAC committee, to a formalized way to hear what those folks have to say.
Okay, thank you. I move to support using $7,902,322 in TIF funds for repayment of public infrastructure improvements in the Grant Creek Crossing TED.
I'll second that and call again for any more comment. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. So we have the RSID 8901 boundary change, and we're going to do a 2-minute bio break before.
Yes.
Oh, did I miss something? We'll do them when I come back.
Thanks.
Got about RSID 8901.
Yeah,
Jason.
hello, commissioners.
Hey, man. Oh, Jason, good to see you.
Good to see you. And am I ready? Are we back from break?
You are. Whoop.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Jason Mitchell, Chief Public Works Officer for Missoula County. And today I'll be presenting a resolution to modify the boundaries of Special Rural Improvement District 8901. Many of you know 8901 as Lolo Water and Sewer. As you know, Commissioners, Montana Code provides the Board of County Commissioners with the authority to change the boundary of RSIDs once per year. This action allows the RSID to reflect the most recent conditions and determine the parcels that actually receive benefit. This is kind of a unique RSID, and the number of members that it has currently, about 1,350 parcels are included, and it's been ongoing since potentially the 1960s, if not sooner. The clerk and recorder's offices, along with the RSID manager, researched the history of this RSID. They come through 70 plus resolutions and compared the findings to those that are actually receiving benefit within the district. And just for your information, with this RSID, we defined the benefit is actually having physical connection to water and or sewer. And then as of today, there are 30 parcels that are being proposed for removal and 117 parcels that are being proposed for inclusion. So simply or put, 117 parcels that have service that have not been paying into the system. And to give a chance for objection, although not legally required, we mailed out letters to all the impacted landowners on 1/16/2026. These letters notice landowners of the removal or addition of their property and stated multiple ways to object these decisions. And several residents actually elected to call or email, and we looked at each parcel on a case-by-case basis. And several changes were made to the exhibits. So we heard people loud and clear. A couple of these instances were plots of land that didn't have service, and we had them on there for addition, and then therefore we removed them from the exhibit. So I just wanted to clear up too that while this is not a required step in creating a new capital improvement RSID, this was kind of pre-work for the new capital improvements, in the fact that when we create a new RSID for capital improvements, we'll use this RSID as the base. And so we wanted to make sure that we got it accurate and complete from step one. And now I'd like to turn it over to John Hart or Sam Scott with the Clerk and Recorder's Office. They put considerable work into this, and I just want to see if they have anything to add.
Thanks, Jason. John.
I don't have anything to add. I think Jason did a nice job summarizing the purpose of this boundary change resolution before you.
Great, thank you.
Sam?
Sam said we're good.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Gave us a thumbs up. Thank you.
Thumbs up.
Thank you. There's a recommended motion.
I move to approve the resolution changing the boundary of RSID 8901 to add the properties in Exhibit A and remove the properties in Exhibit B.
I'll second that and ask for any public comment on this. Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, Sam, and thanks, Jason. John?
Thanks so much.
Thank you all.
It was a ton of work to clean this up. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to Sam. Thank you so much to the Clerk and Recorder's Office.
Well done.
Yeah, never to the attorneys.
Okay, we have one other thing here.
Other business.
Yeah.
We are so excited to take this opportunity. Can we drag Karen up here? Oh, okay. I am excited, and now I want to stand up because we want to acknowledge and these seems like a little elementary school, but these are you're great. And we want to give these to Lauren, Ryan, and Ian Varley, and just so appreciate all the work and time and hours and sweat and tears and missing wildlife on 83 that you guys did for over 2 years, and the time you spent up in the Swan and helping that community craft their neighborhood plan. Just really, really appreciate the work you guys did.
Absolutely.
So.
I know we just got a taste of the passion that people feel when they come here and that you guys we got a taste. You all were swimming in that swimming pool. And I've heard lots of people from the Swan say, I hate this or I like that. And I've only heard people say great things about both of you. So we really appreciate how you represented Missoula County and shepherded this project through many years. And thanks too to your families that let you go away at night and be gone for so long, because it's not an easy trek up there.
I want to read this, if you guys don't let us indulge. So, you're great for creativity, determination, and perseverance in the effort to develop and shepherd the Swan Valley Neighborhood Plan through a 2-year process to completion. This involved intense in-person engagement with the Swan Planning Committee, Community Council, and members of the public, developing the plan and land use map, hosting public engagement efforts, including a questionnaire and open houses, numerous trips to Condon, and responding to so many questions, comments, and concerns along the way with grace and humanity and excellence. So thank you.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Give them that.
Yeah, would you mind? I just want to do a quick comment here. Thank you so much for this. This is a huge honor for us. I would love to thank Lauren Ryan. This is tomorrow is her last day with our department.
Oh, no. But you're not going far. You're not going far.
Not far, right? Just with our, yeah, exactly. With her, yeah.
You don't need a new email.
I know. In fact, she's even closer to you guys than she is to us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly. But I would like to thank her for all of her hard work and the incredible amount of patience that it took to kind of get to where we got to, right, with this process, and especially for her incredible eagle eyes. I've never seen someone sight deer on the side of the road, wildlife,
good,
like Lauren.
good.
Like she can, she'd drive home every time, and it was like, wow, I don't even see anything, and she would be like already slowing down. So really appreciate all of your hard work. So thank you so much, Lauren.
Yeah, thank you both.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, I have Lauren's. Oh, wait, no, I have yours.
We need one. We want to do this.
Yeah, we gotta get a
Yeah,
photo.
one's
Oh, yeah, we have Karen, but,
Where do you want it?
oh, do we have,
You should be on the blanket.
yeah, like, we don't have the plan, can you?
The blanket's nice.
But can we have, you don't have